Well, that's a process right now.
To reset it, he said we would have to reset it.
Between midget football and junior high football, I've kids for the last
See, that's what I don't have
15 years. This will be, I got a notice from the school saying that they're getting ready to start it. My wife texted me, she goes, you didn't sign up for that yet, did you? I'm like, I said, we don't have room for test drive. They didn't ask if I wanted to come back. I said, I'm done volunteering on that. I said, I don't have a dog in the fight. If they ask
If
me,
you have not signed in, we would appreciate you signing in so
got some
that
boys that
Melissa has
so
for
I get
the
connections
record.
with and good kids and wouldn't mind it.
Yep. Jake sexy, new amendments.
Okay. Oh, you're just beginning.
We're just starting.
We could have done that.
We were late bloomers. We got married late, we lost our first, and then I was just like, that's, yeah. So everybody's just like, oh yeah, you got one almost graduated? No, he'll be 12.
Are you a, do you enjoy the NFL and stuff
Well,
like
good
that?
evening. If we could please stand for the pledge.
So that's the part that I was trying to games kind of like that.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Fazy?
Here.
Mrs. Sensenmaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Gill?
Here.
Mrs. Pye?
Here. Thank you. And Rob is on a family vacation this evening, so hope he's having a good time somewhere. Yeah, I know, jealous. Before we actually go through the rest of the agenda, I do need to bring up something to council. I had 3 complaints after people viewed the online of our meeting. They're very upset that many of the council members are on their phone throughout the meeting. I've even had some that thought that they were texting going on between council members. That is a problem with the public meeting law. I did refer to Rob, said, Rob, do any of the other villages have anything about that? And he did send this over, so if anyone would like to read it, there it is.
I think last meeting when we were looking at our phones, it was in reference to prior meeting minutes.
I agree with that, and I also know that at times we use them as calculators. I use mine tonight as a calculator. Set dates. I get that. But there are also people evidently sitting there just saying this throughout the meeting. I'm just a messenger here. I have my phone right here. I know that several of you have small children. If you get a phone call, emergency, get out of here, something's happened, I get that. Just please be aware of how much you're on your phone during the meeting.
Well, sometimes they use it for Google when we're doing research.
I don't know that the people understand
Right,
that,
yeah.
but I'm just the messenger here,
Right.
so.
It's like they don't understand something, I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I'll start bringing my laptop here.
Yeah, that's true.
I just want to make everyone aware. So, thank you. In front of you, you have the minutes from June 27th. We will need a motion.
I motion to approve the June 27th meeting.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, now would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown? Mrs. Sensenmaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Pye?
Abstain.
Mr. Fazy?
Yes.
Mr. Rumbaugh?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have the 2022 June bank reconciliation following the minutes. Need a motion for that
Motion to approve the bank reconciliation.
Second.
Any discussion or questions on that? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Gill?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Fazy?
Yes.
We also have the June 22 paid vouchers.
Motion to approve the June 2022 pay copies.
Second.
Any discussion or questions from Melissa?
I have a question. There's one down here for Sherwin-Williams paint at the pool for $160.45.
We purchased the paint,
Okay.
correct? We purchased the paint for,
Well, that might have been,
paint for something.
that might have been yellow safety paint.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Fazy?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Mrs. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
And we also have the June 22 gas and ERUs.
I make a motion to approve the June 2022 gas payments and ERUs.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? Melissa, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Fazy?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Gill?
Yes.
And also in our packets is the approval of, for the 2023 tax budget. Melissa, do you have anything to add to that? We'll need a motion then for that one.
A motion to approve the 2022 tax.
Second.
Any discussion? No, if gas were to explode even a lot higher, this is just an appropriated amount on those enterprise funds?
That's the revenues.
The
Tax
revenue.
budget is strictly revenues.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Fazy?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Clyde?
Yes.
Mrs. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With us this evening is Matt Cordonier.
Yep.
But I have to look at it, Matt, I'm sorry. From Hancock County Regional Planning. Matt, do you want to come up here and be Rob for a while so that you can face everyone and address questions?
So,
Share a little bit about.
I asked Matt to come here to explain the zoning process. I know we have issues with zoning coming up at the end of the month. I just want the council members aware of the steps, the process, the do's and don'ts, and all that good stuff. I asked Matt to explain all that.
Okay, with that, I'll get started. So, the first step in the process is rezoning. Rezoning is changing the zoning map or code of the village, and that requires village council's approval. The steps in the rezoning, which you have a request for a rezoning. So Planning Commission hears the rezoning, and they make a recommendation. A recommendation to approve, a recommendation to deny. It's merely a recommendation that then goes to Village Council. Planning Commission is also required to notify the surrounding property owners, which I think there was an issue the first time, and I believe that's been redone. So at that point, at the Planning Commission meeting, the project is discussed. Residents or anyone concerned can speak for or against the project. But I think it's important that the Planning Commission meet and make a formal recommendation to the Village Council. Now, that has no official bearing on Village Council, but in theory, at Planning Commission, a lot of the details and discussion occurred, kind of the nitty-gritty. Can the utilities work? Is this harmful to the nearby neighborhood? Is this a potential traffic issue? On a high level. I say on a high level because at the rezoning, the village can't put conditions on a rezoning. You can't say, we will rezone it, but you can only put in 10 houses. Or we'll rezone it, but it can only be an office. When you rezone a property, the property owner has legal right to whatever is in the code. Conversely, though, with the rezoning, so general process. Planning Commission hears it, discusses it, public notice, recommendation to Village Council. Village Council, and this is where cities and villages might be a little different, but in general, three public readings of the proposed rezoning. And before the third public meeting, before the third reading, there should be a public hearing. And this is kind of a last chance for anyone who is for or against to kind of say their piece about the project. If council denies the rezoning request, then essentially nothing happens. If the village approves the rezoning request, it goes into effect 30 days after that. And that period is if there was to be a referendum or something like that by residents or whoever would be interested, that's their opportunity to kind of put a referendum on the board. And that's by gathering signatures through and all that process through the Board of Elections. So if it gets denied at council, then end of process. If it gets approved at council, 30 days, then the zoning is in place that the property owner requested. But that does not give them the ability to build anything. That is not permission to do anything. And that's why I say, at the rezoning, it's more of a high-level view. What possible things could they put there? And in general, from a high level, can the water plant take on 50 more homes? Or can our water take on 50 more homes? What's the drainage look like? Knowing, though, that you don't have any engineering data. And also knowing if they cannot come up with a good plan, you can deny them at the site plan. So let's say we've approved the rezoning. The particular project that's probably on everyone's minds, there's a multifamily portion of it and a single family / duplex, triplex portion of it. And that really has to go through two different approval processes that only go to the Planning Commission. After the rezoning, the Village Council stops their approval process, and this is generally stopped. Everything else just gets approved by the Village Planning Commission. So for the multifamily, it's required a site plan. At the site plan, and what I will do, I'll type this up and email it tomorrow. maybe not with every word, but kind of an outline. At the site plan, they're required to submit full construction drawings. You know, where exactly the structures are sitting, you know, where the roadways will be or private drives, where their utilities will be, where the water lines will be, where the storm sewer will be, and they also need to submit storm sewer calculations. And the calculations show, you know, during a rainfall event, what happens. You know, how much water is collected, how much can the pond hold. In general, the water is rushed to a detention pond through a big pipe, and then there's a little pipe outletting it, so that it's called metered out, so that you then slow down the water getting to your waterways. So the multifamily goes through a site plan. That's approved by Planning Commission. Like I said, full construction drawings. And also, Wood County would be reviewing buildings for commercial building code. That's pretty much things inside the structures. That's if it has 4 units or more. Three units or less in a building, Wood County does not review them. So if a building has 4 units in it, it's subject to the state commercial building code. So depending on how they size it, they'll also have to go to Wood County. At this point, my recommendation is that the village hire a third-party engineer to review where they place the utilities, the drainage, all those things. And then I think the village can lean heavily on that engineer to help make decisions. At that point, you know, if the engineer sees problems, you know, they're not detaining enough water, they need a bigger detention pond. The Planning Commission can say, no, you can't build the 80 units that you wanted. You know, you need to expand the drainage, or you need to, you know, the water lines are not sized correctly. And that's where you can start putting conditions on it. The Planning Commission, unlike the rezoning, you can't put conditions on rezoning, but a site plan, you can put pretty much as many conditions as you want. It's a gray line, you know, it can't be, the condition is you can build one building, you know. You have to kind of show your work. Why are we doing that condition? You know, when, you know, if you could require, for example, something we do, require additional landscaping to buffer between 2 types of projects. You know, the reason for that is kind of, you know, welfare, you know, health, safety, welfare. Those are kind of your 3 big tenets. So the site plan goes to Planning Commission. That gets approved. Then they are at the point where they can start moving dirt and building things. Now, the single family, the duplex, triplex, they will need to submit a plat. And because they're dividing, and they're dividing more than 5. If you're dividing 1 or 2 lots, you can do a minor plat, which doesn't require, it just requires a sign off by the village. But they will have to do a plat, which platting process is preliminary plat, where you generally look at the overview of where the lots are, and then they need to submit construction drawings and a final plat. And at that point, that's where you would rely on your third-party engineer to make sense of all the calculations and all those things. So that, in general, is the process. Rezoning goes to Planning Commission, then Village Council. Site plan goes to Planning Commission. Platting goes to Planning Commission. Issues that the village has, the subdivision regulations are pretty old. If, you know, I think the village of Van Buren has very good subdivision regulations. I think, and this is where the other tall guy that sits here.
Rob?
Yeah, Rob, you'd have to talk with him. But let's say the village wanted to adopt those. Now, the village of Van Buren's subdivision code is in a much better place than the Findlay zoning code for you guys to change your name and just pop it in there. It's a small village with the same issues and concerns that you have, and I would feel pretty comfortable with you guys getting that document and putting Macomb everywhere it says Van Buren. And I've seen that code in work with some of the subdivisions near them, and it's been a good tool for them. So,
would it be fair if we were to receive that and council voted on that, even since they have put in an application?
that's where you have to talk with Rob.
Okay.
I don't know. I still think you have time, but because it's not being reviewed, it's the rezoning is being reviewed. They haven't submitted a plat.
No.
I think if they've submitted a plat and then you try to change the rules.
Pull that rug.
But if you adopt it before they submit a plat, I think.
Well, if we do 3 public readings and we keep them at the regular council meetings like we have in the past, we're talking another month and a half out.
Yeah. You can waive the readings.
Right.
So you can suspend the rules.
We can.
I know, I'll just say this, in Findlay, for rezoning, they won't do that.
They will not suspend it, they will do the 3.
They will suspend for paying bills and things like that, but something, I guess, of weight, like a rezoning, I think, there's kind of a backlash when you just waive it and say it's done.
I think that goes along with what Rob put on that one ordinance that I just sent out. It really truly affects the government of the village.
Yeah. So I do have concerns about the subdivision regulations because at the plat, better subdivision regulations will give your third-party engineer all the tools and teeth that he needs to make sure that
You're adhering to the standards in the city.
yeah.
We used to,
That's what you do for a living.
I've done the big, large senior living developments in communities like Macomb, even smaller. They always have a third party versus just due to not having people on board.
Having the expertise, yeah.
But look, they usually adopt a set of very detailed standards that an engineer puts together. And you just,
Yeah, my concern is, I don't know, if the village doesn't have them, there's still latitude that the village has, but, so, my recommendation is.
Okay, call in May tomorrow, get a copy.
I've copied all of them already.
You have them here?
And, I would get it on the books as soon as possible. And then, that's the process in a nutshell.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
The previous development was never completed. Obviously, you know that. To prevent that from happening, because we all know that Mr. Blass is going to make his money off of the apartment/townhouses, duplexes, triplexes. They are going to be rentals. They are not going to be like a condo. So he puts that road back to there, puts his buffer up, and says, well, geez, I don't think I'll finish it. Can a requirement be that he must put all infrastructure in for that complete area before he can start?
I would think so.
Okay. Would that be a Rob?
A little bit, Rob, you know, I mean, we have a case similar to this that we're going through a little bit, and really it was based, now, somewhat similar. For sure, I think you can require all the infrastructure pertaining to the 2 entrances be completed. And you can point to health and safety pretty clearly, having 2 accesses. You know, if a power pole falls over and someone's in a medical emergency and a fire truck can't get back there, you know, so I didn't fully envision what you were saying.
Okay, currently in their subdivision, it was all plotted and laid out.
Yes.
But it never was completed with the roads and the infrastructure.
Correct.
Can a condition be that Mr. Blaster Ventures, Macomb Ventures LLC, must put in every road, every
Okay.
infrastructure
For the so
for everything?
I don't, for the apartments and for the 2 entrances, I think yes. What's going to happen is you have your preliminary plat, and let's say the whole chalkboard is the development. That's the preliminary plat.
Okay.
And then you submit the final plat for this section.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you build everything in that section. And then you file the second final plat, and then you do that section. So most subdivisions are divided into, you know, Hillcrest, we're at like 9th, you know, so, and then some of them are up to 13th, 14th. And the reason they do that, because once you file the plat, then you are saying, you know, I am building these roads, I am doing this. And developers like to take it a more manageable chunk at a time.
Right.
So that could be difficult to say.
He could provide us a site plan for the multi and have that be approved. And then, you know what, I've changed my mind, I'm not going to do any of the single. Is that a possibility?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with the rezoning, I mean, you rezone it and it could sit there for another 70 years.
Okay.
Or you could have, you know, all of the stuff ready and submit it the day after the rezoning. You just, you know.
I mean, he's going to make his money on the apartments and he's going to make his money on the duplex complexes. But they are included, it sounds like, in the singles.
Yeah, I mean, so I always tell the boards, you know, look at the code and kind of expect, you don't always listen to whatever flowery explanation was given to you, because they could throw that plan walking out the door of the approval that they got. But at the same time, I also say, just because they have it doesn't mean they get it all.
Right.
Because there's engineering considerations, there's, you know, so there's give and take, you know. The developer gets all the uses in that zoning district, but then they have rules and regulations and different hurdles that they come upon that may not let them achieve the maximum density that they want.
Tyler, do you see that happen very often, what you're involved with?
I just tell you from a construction standpoint, to go in and do the whole entire roads would be challenging that's not like flat like the table.
Okay.
You've got some rolling insulation back there more than you would think. To go in and just build up the road and get it to where it actually needs to be, who knows what that drop off's gonna be, what the grade. You need to go in and do the mass grading and build that in a chunk, like you said. That's from a construction standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee that someone will finish what they've started.
Well, obviously.
The economic conditions impact everybody. I understand.
Currently, we're just finishing the subdivisions that stopped when the housing market crashed in 2008. So, I mean.
Other questions?
What do you think, like, there's so many variables and things that affect the timeline of starting that from start to finish. What do you think a development like that is reasonable to complete?
can't, I'm building this in the city, you have to give me better stuff. They are responsible for upgrading. Now, you can't make them upgrade the whole village's drainage system. But what pertains kind of directly with them.
With their drainage.
Yes.
Anyone else have any questions?
Just a couple of just quick questions on the zoning change once it's taken place, and you talked about the highest and best use on that. I think it's the multifamily M2 that they're looking at. There's no guarantee once the zoning gets changed, Mr. Blast and Macomb Ventures could at any point decide they want to sell it to another party, walk out, and now what was originally projected to the village, as long as it meets that M2 guidelines, they could do with what is in there. So even though the applicant is right now for the zoning is planning on building a high-density multi-unit type of structure, and again, there's no guarantees, I get that, but they could at a conceivable point even sell that to another party that they already want, or market conditions change, what have you. So we need to look at the other conditional permissible uses within that too, correct? I mean, those are all conditional things in that M2 category that even though we're not looking at single family, there's other permitted uses within that classification that could a potential buyer in the future come through and want. They could go and try to go in and instill, is that correct?
You're correct, but pulling up the M2 here, you know, what you're saying is spot on. You know, they could sell it, and that's where you rely on your regulations. You know, so permitted uses, multifamily dwellings, two-family dwellings, apartments, accessory uses. And then there's conditional uses requiring cemeteries, daycare, government uses, home occupations, non-conforming, non-commercial recreational, nursing, convalescents, places of worship, parks, golf courses, swimming pools, funeral homes, bed and breakfast, parking lot, emergency services, community center, borrow pits.
It's a pretty broad spectrum on
It
that
is.
classification that, again, if the next buyer comes in, knows it's zoned M2, if for whatever purpose they say, I want to build a convalescent home or what have you, it fits within that classification.
Correct.
And now we would, as a village, have to look at that as now being something that would want to be built on that property and go through the process on it without having the input of, I guess, the zoning part that we have right now as to changing it from the R1 to the M2.
Still has to be brought back to council.
Yeah, the site plan.
The site does, but you can't deny them, say if it's something, the new use, right now we're, you know, you're looking at multifamily, but the new use, if it's something that, I don't know if we really want to have here within the village, even though it meets that criteria, if the owner bought it and he knows that it conforms and presents everything, whether we like it or not, it's one of those things that it fits and conforms to that zoning.
So I will agree with that, but then I'll disagree with one point. So permitted uses, the multifamily, the two-family, and the apartments, and then accessory uses would be like the garages for the apartments. Those are permitted uses. So saying no to those as a village, just an outright no, would be pretty hard. So permitted uses are the highest of, yes, we can do this. Still gets a site plan review. Doesn't mean, you know, if with site conditions or any reasonable logic by planning commission, you could maybe limit them a little bit. Like you can't build 80, you can build 60 because of logical X, Y, and Z. Then you get to conditional uses, cemeteries, daycares, government uses. The planning commission has a lot more leeway on conditional uses. It's much easier for you to say, no, a convalescent home doesn't fit there, you know, health, safety, welfare. And then there's a Ohio Supreme Court case that stood its ground. It was for a gravel pit in southeastern Ohio. It was a conditional use, and the attorney out of Toledo always tells me this: either his preference for a conditional use is just to make conditions that they can't live with. And in case of this gravel pit and Southwest Ohio, they made the setbacks like 600 feet. And then their gravel pit could only be on like the 400 feet, you know. They put huge setbacks that severely limited the size and shape of the gravel pit. And they won that they had,
The right
you
to
know,
do that. Setback.
conditional uses. Anything under the conditional use, you have a lot more sway. To just flat out say, no, it doesn't work, or put any condition that you want on it, essentially, within reason again, but the courts have shown that they will side on the village's case, even when those are fairly extreme. So when I look at that, I say, yep, they're going to be able to build multifamily, two-family, and apartments. If someone wants to put in a regional daycare facility that, you know, buses in kids from Toledo and Findlay, and they have 1,000 kids there, you're like, no, that's not, this is a neighborhood. You know, they're proposing residential uses, but you're proposing something that's not residential in character. So anything in the conditional use, I don't have fear that they're going to make the village let them do that. But the permitted uses, yes, I mean, they're permitted, and for you to say no is a stretch.
Not gonna work.
But that doesn't, but a yes doesn't mean a yes to every single thing that they want. I hope that helps explain it a little bit.
Any other questions? Okay, Matt. Thank you. Matt does intend to be here 20th.
20th.
And I think Ross is going to be here that evening as well.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much,
Thanks,
Matt.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions come up, maybe shoot them to Greg, and Greg will shoot them to me, and
Perfect.
I'll answer them as best I can.
Appreciate it.
But I'll make a note, I'll do a quick little, what the order is of things for everybody, and
Thank
email
you.
it out tomorrow.
Thanks again.
Well, and thanks for letting me speak first.
No,
I couldn't hop on.
no. Enjoy the rest of your evening. For the 2 more days.
Thank you, ma'am.
Looking then at the sign-in sheet, Brenda, did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
I want to wait.
Okay.
I want to see if it gets answered first.
Okay. John, do you have anything that you wanted to share this evening?
Just some clarification on the 175th, but I think we're going to get there if we can just do that.
Okay.
Back and forth.
Troy?
Just here
There you
to,
go.
thank you.
Chuck?
No.
Sharon? And Tim?
Just here to hear how the burning is going to go.
Hopefully, it will be passed here this evening and life will be a little safer downtown.
I'm all for
And
that.
Mr. Potts to talk. Pass that over to you. Thank you. We did not have any committee meetings between the last meeting and this meeting, so we have no committee reports this evening. Open burning is still under old business, but I believe that will be addressed here shortly. The 170th celebration, I do want to touch on that a little bit and see where we're at. On August 6th, we have the free swim from, is it 12 to 9 or 1 to 9, right? If we do 1 to 9 or 12. I think we did say 12 because the parade would be over.
Yeah, 12.
So
You got me.
August 6th,
August
that
6th,
Saturday,
Saturday.
at the cookie. Or no,
Nope,
August 6th.
we're crossing
not
you.
cookie.
No parade that day.
Are we having a parade?
No parade.
I'm confused.
August 6th.
Is that-
We'll have free swim
Saturday.
from 12 to
No.
9.
I need another month.
We have movie and snacks in the park with Bad Guys as the movie. No, I have this all written, so we don't have to rush.
Where is that going to be at?
Well, it's my understanding
Hold on,
that
two.
Mr. Hart had originally asked to be up front, but Mr. Fasig must have spoken with him, and it's now on Diamond 2.
Yep. And just if we could, rightly so, just to make sure that we keep all of the potential litter in one spot instead of being all strung everywhere.
Well,
We've
that's
got-
why you would ask for the tape, so just don't have to tape now.
No more tape.
We've got fence.
Put them inside the fence.
That's right.
And what time was it gonna be, John, that you were thinking about?
We were
starting?
thinking probably at dusk-ish, maybe 9 o'clock.
Just put dusk, 9 o'clock.
If they're swimming
Shortly
till
after
9, you'll need to give them a
9:30?
few
Yeah.
So
to
then
dry off
I
and
just
get
wanna-
there.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Um,
And then-
Questions?
No, you're good.
Good selection.
We did find out through the health department that he had asked about the hot dogs, as long as they're, however you do them, and it's a donation, hot dogs that evening are fine.
Yep.
Is there anything else you need from us that you can think of?
I'm a huge fan of planning ahead so I don't look like an idiot. Is there a way we could get the projector and the screen like there early in the day so we can kind of get it set up, do a dry run just to make sure that we're good?
I'll talk with Robbie on that one. Because
Okay.
we're getting everything from Robbie, and I already confirmed that date with him, so.
Okay.
So you're gonna take care of that, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
And then just so we can kind of have the flow correct, what makes sense in this open discussion, just so we can kind of get a better feel for it. As far as the hot dogs, and we actually got a eighth of beef donated, so we're going to do hamburgers as well for everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is looking like a real smorgasbord.
Might celebrate something. Should that be going on concurrently with Open Swim, just supper time, just for the movie? What makes sense?
The food?
The food.
I'd say during the swim and the movie.
Okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
the kids eat.
Kids
they
like to
swim
eat.
enough.
If you don't have popcorn, you better have something there.
I was gonna say,
You
you
gotta
gotta have
popcorn.
popcorn.
Yeah, popcorn.
Doing the hot dog and burgers for like a designated supper type time, and then do other snacks for the movie. So
Okay.
popcorn, chips.
He has popcorn.
Yep.
Do you want to give a time that you're thinking to serve the hot dogs and hamburgers so I can put it on the flyer? 6 to 7, 5:30 to 6:30?
I eat anywhere between 4 and 9, so it just depends on the day.
I would keep it
I know, no,
contained.
I
5 to 7?
5 to
I would
7,
say
4 to
5
6.
to 7 work for you. That
Yep.
way you have time then
Food's going.
to do
Yep.
the movie, yeah.
And
Yep.
I'm assuming then that'll be at the shelter house inside the pool. That's where they can
Correct.
pick up their
Yep.
hamburger and hot dogs.
Yep,
Okay.
we'll have everything
Alright.
pre-grilled, pre-wrapped, that way there's no contamination issues, and then just pass them out like hotcakes.
If there's any left over, they'll be at the popcorn movie night then.
Only if they're kept at 140 degrees. That was drilled into my head at the health department.
Anything, John, is there anything else that you can think of for the swim and the movie that I would need to put on the flyer?
One slight change, we finally got word back from the Secretary of State as far as a name we requested for the building. So with that, could we have that sponsored by that company as opposed to John and Sarah Hart family?
You just tell me what you'd like it to be.
Okay, all right. When it actually officially comes in the mail, in like 2 days, and it's
Okay.
real, then I will let you
Okay.
know.
I am going to, we've kind of drafted Greg's daughter. She is a graphic, whatever, into all that, so she will be designing our flyers soon.
Would they be ready by now?
The flyers?
Or something?
If I can get this information and Molly can do her magic, then we can hand them out down at the cooking.
That would be a great idea.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Sounds good.
Downtown sidewalk days, I have not contacted the businesses, but we don't have that many to really contact. The fire department, they are meeting this evening. They may be providing a picnic lunch that day. So I'm waiting to hear back from Anthony, and then we can put that right on the flyer with the downtown businesses, sidewalk sales. Basically, would you be open that day for anything, Sharon, or not?
I was just gonna ask that question. I did not know about the sidewalk sale. The Coach Shane Memorial is open all the time to sell jam and hot dogs
Okay,
all the time.
so you will want to, when we decide that time, you'll probably want to make sure that you're there and open that day, because I look to see people drop their kids off at the pool, well, maybe go to the picnic, drop their kids off at the pool, come back and hang out in town a little bit, and then go back to the pool, so. Okay, I think that takes care of the 6th. The 7th, the community church service will begin at 10:30 at the American Legion. Robbie was very cordial and appreciated it's basically nothing to us as a village unless we use trash service. If we use the dumpsters, then we pay $50. The fire department is discussing this evening about doing a breakfast. I think they're talking, what they did, the pancakes and the sausage. If not, I think then that we should look at just providing an hour before, like 9:30 to 10:15, juice, donuts, and coffee, and let people kind of come in and mill around and chat with each other.
What time is that at the Legion?
The church service starts at 10:30. I want to see what the fire department comes back with tomorrow for that, before we put that on the flyer. Beth, we still haven't talked yet.
No.
Do you mind have a little time tomorrow we could talk?
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. About the village tours.
Sure. And you want that on like on a Sunday, correct?
Pardon me?
Sunday?
I think Sunday afternoon, that's
Okay.
just. August 8th, oh, anything else for the Sunday? August 8th, on that Monday, we have Meet the Team Night at school. That will begin at 7:30. Deb Ewing will do between a 15 and 20 minutes presentation and overview of the history of Macomb. Deb could probably speak for a couple hours. I reminded her that those seats in the cafeteria are not made for old people. We will have the cake, ice cream, and water, and that will be the end of our celebration. Now, my question, I mentioned at one time, looking through some of the other villages, do we want to introduce and recognize any of the previous mayors and council members? I have not called Bob Lattice's office yet, but they called wanting to know what they could do. Maybe they could do, maybe he'd like to speak.
Also, Kathy, we were supposed to have a council meeting that day, that night.
Oh.
I was going through it, I was writing it on my calendar.
Yeah, I remember that one time we did talk about that when we said we were going to do those 3 days. Okay. We will
There's
have
5 Mondays in August, I just realized that. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We do it for first, or can you do that?
Or can we move it
Your
15th
range?
and 21st?
Cancel it and just do this second.
Let's think about that and make that final decision on the 25th.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
I just want to bring that up.
Thank you. We did talk about that when we originally, but yeah, that kind of slipped too.
Okay.
So, I have no idea how to find out who all had been on council. The mayors, I've heard different names brought up, but
I think recognizing some of the former mayors would be a great, and then I think maybe just in general thank anyone and all who's participated in the betterment of the village, whether you served on council or were a concerned resident in the village, because we wouldn't be where we're at without everyone.
you may get to speak then. Okay, so I'm going to I can go back a little ways and know the ones that are
You could probably go through some of the old minutes. too.
probably. I don't know if I called the Board of Elections. They may have a master copy. Okay, I can hang in and do that. Yes, Mr. Light forwarded a voicemail to me course, I couldn't get it on my phone, I couldn't get it on my computer this morning, but when you turn the volume up, it works a lot better. So it was from Vlada's office wanting to know what they could do for a celebration.
Okay.
Have we covered pretty much everything? The bags, all of you received a bag this evening. They're here. I know, Beth, you plan to bring your little pop-up down there.
Yes.
And I'll be around to help you at some of that
Okay.
time. It is Judson's first birthday, and it
I
sounded
know.
cool or fun.
Yeah.
I'll be there anyways, I can always pop down and help her if she needs somebody.
Okay. We are planning to have a pop-up during the Cookie Festival. They have some other little businesses sometimes, like the EDO, I think maybe the Realtors had one.
Just to
I'm
let
not
them
sure.
know about the 175th that's going on. That's why I said I was trying to have a flyer, but does
I-
it have to be made by centers or something?
Well, I think if we
Whatever.
can
Yeah.
get Molly to do her quick work, we can make flyers and
Okay.
get them
Yeah.
handed out. Yes, Troy?
Let's see, Monday is the 8th of
Mhm.
August, okay. We're doing our booster drive for the Macomb Athletic Boosters there. Earlier, I think we've got everybody meeting, usually go from about 6 to 7:30, meeting at the cafeteria. If I understand correctly, you're planning on doing your presentation, everything to piggyback off of that, is that correct? Or
Yes.
do we need to, and the reason why I'm asking is I have that night is usually chaos with kids going everywhere, coaches, parents, what have you. What I need to do to give you the space that you guys are gonna need to do, because we use the cafeteria as kind of our staging area for all the kids coming in and out, dropping off applications and then things of that nature. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm on the same page with you folks, so we're not in your way.
I had corresponded with Sean.
Yep.
And he thought that the drive and everything would be back by 7:30. Then we can go with, meet the team, introduce the teams, and then do our little bit about the history. We will have a crowd there to eat cake and ice cream. And we don't have to have a bunch of ice cream and cake left over for all of us.
You just hit the magic word, because the kids will be
There you
back.
go.
Well, and that was
If you
fine.
tell me you're gonna start at 7:30, I tell kids there's gonna be cake and ice cream as part of it. They will be back, because some nights, they come strolling in at 7:45, 8 o'clock, and then depending on the coaches and where they go, I don't know if they're out getting ice cream themselves or what, but anyway, so that will at least, if I tell them, hey, 7:30, we're gonna wrap this up this year, get your butts back here, and food is an amazing thing to go and motivate a
And
teenage
it would
mind,
be
so.
James's ice cream, so there's an extra.
Even better, even better.
But you could hit two birds with one stone and get membership.
Yeah, well, and that's what Sean and I had talked about. He reached out to me last week that you were looking to do that, which I thought was a great opportunity, not only to incorporate in the finality for the 175, but also for kicking off our booster drive for this year, because it's our main fundraiser outside the raffle.
Well, and we need to get the youth to hear a little bit about the town too. That was kind of our.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice to understand and appreciate a little bit of the history behind it.
Sure.
And for some of us that, don't know the history, to find out some of the history that some folks have unearthed too, is kind of interesting.
What do you think? 15 minutes, but time for introducing the teams? I mean, you have what, cross-country, football,
You have football, cross-country,
volleyball?
golf, volleyball.
Do you do cheerleaders?
Usually they do cheerleaders.
I'm just thinking at Arcadia.
Yep.
No, we have enough. We're gonna have enough cake.
I have enough for 300. Okay, that's my plan.
The golf team will have
golf,
a boys and girls team this year, so they've got two teams this year, your cross-country, volleyball.
It may take
Football.
20-some minutes to go
Yeah.
through them.
I don't know what the football numbers are, but usually they're around 40-ish and 45
So,
some.
even if we get to the spot at 8 o'clock and Deb talks 15 to 20 minutes, she thought she would have her power slides going with different pictures while everybody's eating. You know what, 10 minutes you have your food, and 8:30, 8:45 late.
Yeah, usually the coaches move right through it real quick, introduce the
That's what
kids.
Ours always did, stand
Yep.
up and go down.
Yeah, a lot of the kids don't want to talk, so it's real easy when they're just going down the line, they just introduce them, and
Okay,
yeah, I wouldn't expect it to be too long of a time period for it.
right, thank you. If you think of anything, Troy, that I'm missing out on for that evening, let me know. All right, and I'm hoping that several members of council will be there to hand out cake and hand out their slice of ice cream, and the Cookie Factory has donated water, so our site. I think, obviously, you guys saw the banner. We've had a little bit of an issue with the banner. The wind in town, that's like a tunnel down through there. It had flipped over, and I know Jared was bringing the bucket truck up about 3 o'clock when I left. The new larger buntings, they're here or coming today or soon?
They're supposed to, today or tomorrow, I didn't see them today.
Okay. By the time they hung up what Lowe's had left after the 4th, they look pretty small. T-shirts, Sarah has corresponded with Holly. Everyone here, I believe, has done their size, except for me. I want to try it on, Holly, and she hadn't been in. We will have some of them, she says, ready to go down there to get rid of and take orders at the Cookie Festival. The pencils, they're ready. We're going to hand them out at the Cookie Festival. We've received the cloth bags.
How many did you get?
250 bags, I
Okay.
believe.
Okay. So the pencils, you want to do like half there, along with this, or?
You know what? I would rather see us get rid of them.
Okay.
And if we have any left over,
Then I'll
take them
take
to
them
the
there.
school on the
Okay.
8th.
Sounds great.
That, to me,
All right.
if there's anything we're missing, don't hesitate to email me or call me.
On the flyer though, should we also put church services are going to be there?
Yes, I meet with, well, we will put church services, but I do meet with the ministers on the 19th.
Okay.
I think the service was going to focus about unity, about coming together, things like that. And the kids from the Bible school, they're going to do a little song because they just would have had Bible school, so we've involved the youth in it as well. There will be a youth little service for the youth right there built in. Okay. Anything else on 175th? The downtown grant. I believe I updated you last week. We have had some things take place even tonight. I received some information back from Lauren. Everyone has gone through and scored those projects. We have a template that she finished up today. She's waiting on a definite yes with our ordinance this evening, because she needed to define that area. And, she asked me to take and submit some pictures, which I was out in front of yours today. I was out in front of all of them. I click, click, click. I told her I'm not a photographer, Lauren. She has our pre-application ready to be submitted to the county commissioners to sign off. And once that is sent in, I just found out it will be till fall, early fall, she said, before we will actually hear back whether it looks like it's a go. I have received some money donations to help support that cost. It is a one-time cost for between the 10 and 12,000. So if we continue to do this, it doesn't look like that is going to be a cost for each ton.
Good.
I will be at the Rotary. They had questions. I will be answering questions there the 26th, kind of August, maybe?
Last Tuesday.
And I had Mr. Spoon reach out to me yesterday on the Lions Club, and I responded with him